We bought this farm almost 10 years ago, 10 years in December, and I had resigned from the government after 22 years, and I resigned as a project manager, and I was too young to retire, so I wanted to do something more. I'd started an engineering mechanical business in Howard Springs, but I had a bit of cash left over, and I was thinking of buying a big boat and going fishing, but my wife talked me out of that, and she suggested we buy some land, and coming off a dairy farm in New Zealand, I thought that's a good idea. We looked in the paper and drove around, and we looked around the Bachelor area and didn't find anything that suited us, and one day my wife said there's a place at Adelaide River for sale, and it's been for sale forever, and the real estate people have lost interest, and if you want to have a look at it, just go out and have a look, because there's no gates. And so we came out here, 77 acres, and the farm was virtually abandoned. Where this vehicle's parked here now was a beautiful elevated house, magnificent house I'm told. It burnt down. There was just this wreckage, steel wreckage of the house, and the roof iron flapping, and people who came here just thought, ugh. We made him an offer, and he eventually accepted, and so we started work. And then there was a task of demolishing this house, which was huge. You know, I had my wife's brother come over from the Philippines and help me, and I had him up in the bucket of my tractor against all OH&S rules, and we were oxy-settling, cutting and doing all sorts of illegal things, and we cut the house down and we took it to the rubbish tip. I think it was in 2011 we decided to buy our own stock, and we started off very gradually. We bought 5 yearlings. Most of the yearlings that we bought were those that had been not accepted for export to Indonesia. One had a horn up and a horn down and all sorts of silly little trivial things, and they won't take them for that reason, but it didn't matter, they're still beautiful animals, and we got them at a good price. So I can't see the logic in not taking an animal like that. 3 heifers and 2 steers, that's all we could find that was available, but it was a start. And I modified my car trailer and brought them out here, and away we went. And we slowly added to that. Next year we bought another 4 yearlings, and the following year another 5 yearlings, and a friend of ours who helps me on the farm here actually gave us a shorthorn bull, and he was good at his job, and it wasn't too long before we started having calves. So from small beginnings, we've actually achieved. We had a calf born this morning, and I think that brings the total up to 43. And we've had a massive amount of calves. We've been absolutely blessed. The 10 cows that I bought last year, one of them's a huge white cow, and we called her Snow White because all the others looked like dwarfs beside her, and she had a she's a beautifully white cow and a massive animal. She had a calf 18 months ago, and just 2 weeks ago she had another calf, and it's so white that it's almost illuminates in the dark, you know. On a dull day it just stands out, you know, you can see this gorgeous calf. The first calf ever born here is a gorgeous calf, and of course the first one, and they're starting to grow little horns, and I said to my friend John, should we do something with the horns? And he said, no, his father is a shorthorn and they won't grow much. And we call her Licker because every time she comes up she licks you. And because we have the bred, we hand feed them, they've become incredibly quiet. I mean, they would be absolutely useless on a cattle station because you can't drive them, they won't go anywhere, they'll just stand. And but for what we want, you can cuddle them, you could ride on the back of the one remaining steer. The calves will come and push you over if you ignore them. They're absolute pests. If you're doing anything outdoors, fencing or whatever, they want to come and have a look, and they'll steal things. They chew up electric cords. They're absolute vandals, but we wouldn't have it any other way. That's just we just love it like that. They're magnificent. People come here and just cannot believe that such huge animals, you can cuddle them. In the wet season, this place could run 100 head of cattle or more, but in the dry season, really, you'd be lucky if you could run, well, you can't run any really, because there's no grass. We have to supplementary feed them, and it costs money. We have to buy hay, we buy cattle pellets, we buy other feed, corn and peas and all sorts of things from NT stock feeds. I've got a wonderful, successful relationship with the Foodbank. Tuesday afternoon and Friday afternoon, I get a share of the leftover bread and buns and everything. After the supermarkets have bought all the bread in, and buns and whatever, when it reaches their use-by date, they can't legally distribute it, so they give it to us. If we didn't take the bread away, it would be dumped. So it's just a colossal waste. And so the manager says, Neal, please just keep coming, you know. And it looks good. It looks good in their annual records that they haven't dumped so many tons of food, you know, that it's gone to a good cause, even if it's gone to cows and pigs. I mean, it doesn't matter. The man who lived next door, who had the horses on my property, well, I saw that his horses were quite skinny, and I said, hey mate, we've got lots of grass, if you want to cut the fence and let them in. And this was about 10 years ago. And so we formed a friendship. Brought up around animals all his life. He used to be in the stables in Sydney amongst the horse racing fraternity, and he just knows animals. He knows all the cures and for the ailments and things. You don't need to bring a vet. You just get John, and he just knows the stuff to buy. He lives only half a kilometre away, and he comes here twice or 3 times a day, checks the cattle for water and feed and security of the property. We've given him several animals. He won't take payment for what he does. That's the way it works out here. It's really terrific. We all help each other, and we don't charge anyone for anything. It's exactly 100 kilometres from our 5 acres in Howard Springs to here. It takes an hour, so I do 400 kilometres a week. If I didn't have that man, he's about my age, I'd have to live here. But I don't have to live here. I can still run my business in Howard Springs and come here. So. But when I drive down the highway twice a week, I think, Lord, I'm just so blessed that I can do whatever I want to do. This place does have a historic background. I'm told reliably by lots of locals that on the highest hill up there, which is a ridge runs right back, there was anti-aircraft guns during the Second World War, and they were attempting to shoot down the Jap bombers who were coming over to bomb the military establishments here in Adelaide River and also further south to Katherine. I've never been able to actually pinpoint where they were. They must have cleaned it up beautifully, but people tell me that was the case. As a matter of interest, we tried to think of a name for the property, and we called it The Retreat, and they came back and said someone else has already got that name. And I said to my wife, who's from the Philippines, what's The Retreat in Filipino? And it's El Retiro, which is a Spanish influence in the Philippines. So this property is registered as El Retiro in brackets The Retreat. So I thought that's pretty cool.